What's going on, fam? Today we're out in the driveway. We're working on a 2009 Nissan Versa with the 1.8 liter. They're not bad little cars, but our fuel pump has went out and we need to fix that. At first we thought it was the starter, and after we took that off and tested it, starter was actually going bad. So I replaced that and then it still wouldn't start. So before I threw any more money at parts and messing around, I called my buddy Zeke over, who's actually a trained mechanic and went to school for this stuff, unlike me. And with a few quick taps, he ascertained it is more than likely the fuel pump. So we're gonna do that, and hopefully that gets us back on the road. Because when he tapped on the gas tank, she fired right back up. So I'm almost positive that's what's going on. So let's go see how to do that, shall we? All right, so here's the dirty little beast in question. Now, if you're wondering about the starter, it's right down there, kind of under the dipstick. I don't know if you can see it with this lighting. And it's super easy to take out. All you do is you undo this little hose from the reservoir, and there's that little clip right there. The reservoir will pop right out, and then you do this first. Sorry to get out of order. You take this little airbox piece off first, and it just pops off here and here. And there's supposed to be bolts here, but they weren't there when I got there, and I'm going to replace them. So do this, pop that out, and the starter is just right there. And then it's like a 10 millimeter and 8 millimeter for the jumper and the ground, or the jumper and the power wire, and then two 18 millimeter bolts. And that thing's out of there. Oh, and you got to take a connector off that's right in there, because it makes it kind of a pain to wiggle the starter out. But the starter wiggles out straight up the top. Super easy to do, but that was not the problem. So we're not going to worry about that anymore. The problem is the fuel pump. So the first thing you do is you want to come over here to the fuse box, and these little tabs, you push them outwards and you kind of pull up to free the fuse box. See? You pull this fuse box up and out of there, being careful. I probably should have disconnected the negative before I do this, but you know what? I am going to do that first. Haha. All right, so we pull the fuse box up out of there, and you got to kind of twist it around, being careful not to really torque on the wires too much. And if you look up here on the little diagram, you see AC compressor, and then you go down 3 empty spaces, then 2 more spaces, and it says fuel pump right there. So we come over here, 10 amp, 3 dead spaces, 2 spaces there, fuel pump. So you want to pull that fuse for the fuel pump right there. And then reconnect your battery cable, which is just a 10 millimeter. Reconnect your battery cable, and then you're going to go in there and you're going to just crank the car for a second to get all your excess fuel pressure out. Okay? All right, so I pulled that fuse with some needle nose. It's out of there now. Now we're gonna reconnect this negative cable here, zap zap, and we're gonna go inside the car and we're gonna crank it just briefly, and then we're gonna disconnect this cable again. That doesn't need to be tight. All right, now we're gonna get in and crank it for just a second. All right. Shut it back off, and that should do it. All right, now disconnect this battery cable again, and we're gonna go around and look on the inside of the car. All right, now to get to the fuel pump, lucky you don't have to drop the tank. All you gotta do is pick up this back seat here, and you can get access to a fuel door right under it. And I'm not going to show you guys the awkward process of pulling that seat up while you're inside that car, because I don't need that embarrassment on the internet. I already embarrassed myself quite enough, thank you. So I'm going to take you inside here, and we're going to look at how to pull that seat up and access that fuel pump. All right, inside we go. And if you see here, the seat just has these clips that clip on to the front of the seat, and it's not like other seats where you gotta like push back on it and then lift up. I don't think these, I just kind of jimmied them up out of the way and just pulled them straight up. Now they're a pain, and be careful not to like tear your seat cover or something, because that is imminently possible. But you just pull the dang thing up and set it to the side, and the fuel pump is right here on the passenger side. Now, some people like to use air blowers to just blow all this stuff away, and then when they open the door, they like to just blow all that stuff away. But I don't like to do that because that just spreads the dirt around. I'm gonna actually use a vacuum to do all that, because, well, under the seat needs it. It's been the car of a single mother for a long time, and who knows before that. So there's just a bunch of stuff I'm gonna help get out from under here. So let's do that. All right, good enough for government work. Now we're gonna get into this little access door here. And all you gotta do for that is you take a Phillips head screwdriver and you just turn these little guys without stripping them, because they're plastic. All right, 2 and 3, here we go. Come on, cooperate. I think they only turn one way. There we go. Now, this pops off and voila! Gas pump exposed. Now, I'm gonna take my vacuum again and get all this dirt and gunk out of here, because you do not want that stuff falling down into your fuel tank and ruining the fuel pump you're about to replace, okay? So get that done. All right, so to take this connector off, you can probably just use a flathead, but I went and got this little doodle bop here, and you just stick it up under that front piece, and you wiggle that, you disconnect that connector, and the thing just falls right off of there. You lay it to the side. Well, lay it to the side, there we go. Now, you're gonna come in, you're gonna disconnect this fuel line, and at this point, is when you should be glad that you took that fuse out and tried to start the motor a little bit, cranked it, because if you don't, when you take that line off, gasoline is going to go in your face, on your hands, all over the car. Just take the fuse out and crank it over a couple times. It'll save you a lot of hassle and smelling like gas, okay? Okay, so I finally got this lock ring off. I had to run up to a flea market that happened to be open today, and everybody was there, and get me a pair of regular big channel locks, because my little ones with the angled jaws just weren't cutting it. So I went up there and I grabbed those, and bit by bit, you just use the channel locks to grab onto it and squeeze it, and you just squeeze it this side, this side, this side, this side. You just turn it little by little all the way until you're about done. And then I went and grabbed a hammer and this big old handily curved antique screwdriver that I had, and I used it to gently tap it out the rest of the way, and voila, lock ring off. Now we're going to take the pump out and install the new one. No. Alright, the old pump is out. This thing is just about as wide as the hole it comes out of, so you're gonna have to wiggle it pretty hard, but it's doable. I mean, you're gonna have to really wiggle it on up out of there, but it's totally doable. Just be careful of the little fuel float sensor when you put the new one back in. I'm gonna do that here in a second after I get it out of the front seat. But I took a fluid transfer pump. I put it to the bottom of the tank and I sucked a bunch of the stuff out from in there, so that the new pump wouldn't get all that stuff that dropped when I pulled the old one out. Okay, and then after you put your new O-ring on, don't ask me how I know that, you want to drop this new pump down in, and the new pump dropped right down in there. It wasn't as wide as the factory pump, so there's no struggle at all. You had to tilt it just a little bit to get the sender arm and a little protrusion off the side, and then it just dropped right in, easy as pie. I didn't even need to film that. So now I'm going to push it down, put the lock ring on, and reconnect everything. All right, now to get it back on, you're just gonna take your channel lock, same way you got it back off, but just wider. Squeeze, yeah. And you're just gonna squeeze one side and then that till it's all the way locked back on. All right, now to get it back on, you're just gonna take your channel lock, same way you got it back off, but just wider. Squeeze, yeah. And you're just gonna squeeze one side and then that till it's all the way locked back on. All right, the lock ring is on. I've clipped this back on, and after I very carefully removed that little clip off the old fuel pump, I put it onto the new outlet here, and I clipped the line back on. So that's done, but I'm not going to button all that back up until I actually start the vehicle, because if there's any kind of leaks, I want to make sure I get it now. So we're gonna go back up front. I've already done this. Put your fuse back in for the fuel pump. Put your negative lead back on. 10mm wrench. And we're gonna start the car. Okay, now I've got my friend in the driver's seat and they're gonna crank it on up. And I'm gonna observe this to make sure there's no leaks. Then if there's no leaks, we're all golden.
Ready?
All right, fire it up. Crank it on a bit. Keep going. It's got to build up pressure in the line. All right, the dark lady lives. Yeah. Well, there you have it. 2009 Nissan Versa hatchback with the 1.8 liter fuel pump and a bonus starter. So I'm gonna let this run for a minute and then clean everything up, and we may take her on a test drive here soon. All right, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I appreciate everybody watching. Take care, everyone.